Hello, and welcome to Here by Nature. Today I'm going over Isaiah 55:12, and I'm using the New International Version, which reads, "You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills will burst into song before you, and the trees of the field will clap their hands." The first key takeaway is that God's guidance brings true peace. Being led forth in peace emphasizes that God's leading is not chaotic or harsh, but rooted in His peace. When we follow Him, we walk in a direction that brings wholeness, not confusion. True salvation transforms our inner life. The Lord speaks directly to Isaiah and tells him numerous things. This verse focuses on how Isaiah will respond. You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. This is a promise to Isaiah, but also to us. Anyone who has ever felt God's peace in their life can personally vouch for this. The journal prompts for the first key takeaway are: where in my life do I need to surrender control so that I can be led by God's peace rather than my own striving? How does God's peace differ from the temporary calm that the world offers? What steps can I take this week to align my decisions more with God's peaceful guidance? The second key takeaway for this verse is that peace is evident through God's presence. Peace is not just the absence of conflict, but the presence of God's wholeness, shalom. To be led forth in peace is to live under God's presence, provision, and protection. To go out in joy is another part of this verse. Personally, there are still things I need to learn to give to God fully. I'm a tad bit stubborn, but through God's grace and actively trying to get better with it, I know that His peace will rest upon me again. The journal prompts for the second key takeaway are: when have I most clearly felt God's peace as a sign of His presence with me? How can I learn to recognize peace, or the lack of it, as an indicator of whether I'm walking in step with God? What spiritual practices, prayer, scripture, worship, draw me most into God's presence of peace? The third key takeaway for this verse is that peace shapes our outlook on the world. To be led forth in peace is not only for our benefit, but also a testimony to others. When God's people walk in peace, the world sees a reflection of His character in us. Now, I don't have to say what I'm referencing, as it's been all over the news and socials here recently, but this has also been very, very proven through the world-changing event that I can talk about like this vaguely, and everybody know what I'm talking about, that happened a couple weeks back. This verse reassures God's people that His promises will be fulfilled. Their journey is not marked by fear or despair, but by joy and peace, because God Himself is leading. The journal prompts for the third key takeaway are: how does my attitude of peace, or lack of it, affect how others see God through me? Where can I actively demonstrate God's peace in my relationships, workplace, or community? What would it look like for me to be a peacemaker who reflects God's peace to others? So, for today's personal reflection, I'm going to be doing the second key takeaways, first question. When have I most clearly felt God's peace as a sign of His presence with me? So, in my adult life, the only time that I've really felt God's peace was whenever I was unemployed. And honestly, I feel like because without that peace, I would have gone absolutely mad. Wouldn't have known what to do with myself. I would have been worried about literally everything. Because I'm a planner. I like to make sure that there's a schedule for things and that there's a plan A, B, and C. And if A, B, and C don't go the way that they're supposed to, I have a plan D and maybe E. Like, I have backup plans for my plans, basically. But yeah, I was unemployed for 3 months, and I knew at the end of the day that we would be taken care of. And all of our bills were paid, and we had a little bit of help towards the end with food and everything, but we were always fed. And yeah, just that the peace of knowing that, like, one way or another that God will provide, like that. Not necessarily that I want to go back to being unemployed, but I do miss that piece of, like, knowing, I guess, and almost believing that everything's going to be okay at the end of it. Where now I have a job and it's all, I say it's awesome. Of course, there's going to be like work stress and like all this kind of stuff, but it's getting better. And I'm a little bit more secure in what my job entails, the amount of help that is going to be leveraged in all of this through my coworkers and my leaders and what have you. But yeah, there's still just this like underlying uneasiness that I can't really like get out of my head, basically, or my heart. So to kind of blend into the next question, the third key takeaway is second question. Where can I actively demonstrate God's peace in my relationships, workplace, or community? So recently, a situation happened at work where one of my coworkers confided in me something very personal, and due to my previous mental health episodes, situations, moments, like whatever you want to call them, because of all of that that happened, I was able to speak very forwardly on my personal experience with it and offer like a real time, like, if it's an emergency, do this. If you have a little bit more of a clear mind situation, then, and it's not like a outright emergency, then call these people, go do this. Like, going back to earlier, like the planner situation, plan A, B, and C. Like, you have all of these resources and use them depending on the level of severity of what you're going through. And while that might not necessarily seem like peace in the moment, because it's the antithesis of peace, it's this mental health struggle that this person is going through, like, maybe peace isn't the right word, maybe love, but being able to show this other person who, like, we spoke for like 20, 30 minutes. Like they're going through a lot, to the point that like their family and friends don't even fully believe what they're going through, which can be like, I can't imagine how that feels, because my husband understands the severity and the level of what I'm going through. So I can't imagine not having that support group. So I guess offering that level of peace for them is what I was trying to do in the workplace, for the community. And yeah, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is I'm supposed to do with an online presence. I don't know. I would like it to be something to do with mental health, just because of like how worked up I'm getting talking about all of this and like wanting to help people. And who knows, I may cut this out, but like I know that I don't have like the credentials to talk mental health. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a sociologist. Like I don't know sociology, I don't know psychology, I don't know like all of these things in a like a college background. Like I'm not book smart in it, but I have this lived experience. I don't know. So the third key takeaways, third question. What would it look like for me to be a peacemaker who reflects God's peace to others? To use my church's phrasing, we just got done with the 40 days devotional of the armor of God and standing firm in the armor of God. So the phrasing, like standing firm, basically, like knowing who God is and who He says I am, who I'm called to be because of Him. And that has a level of peace to it. And sure, like some level of anxiety because like I have to live up to it and like, ooh, all that kind of stuff. But there's also grace. There's also forgiveness for those tougher days when something doesn't go exactly the right way. But yeah, to be able to stand firm knowing that even though those bad days will come because I'm human, that I don't know, I can just continue to move forward because I don't know. At work, I'm trying to make the atmosphere a little bit more fun, more lighthearted, where more peaceful, where some of the coworkers are a little bit uptight and kind of bringing the mood down. I'm well diagnosed with depression, trying to uplift everybody and make it a place for people want to go to work, but more so want to stay, where we do feel like a mismatched kind of family kind of situation where like we can take those like 5 little minutes every now and then to like, hey, this is a thing that's happening, can I talk about it, kind of thing, instead of like, oh, I don't know if I can trust this person because they're going to say this or that. Like, yeah. I'm trying, basically. In every little aspect that God's given me to try, which currently, outside of this and doing the personal reflections and everything, it really is just work. I do have friends, again, and of course I have my husband, of course. But yeah, really just trying to bring that peace back within myself so that I don't have to try to fill from an empty glass, kind of thing. And I'm hoping I get it soon. I can kind of feel like it's coming back, but I'm really hoping. And praying that it comes back soon. But hopefully you heard whatever it is that you needed to hear today. And until next week, friends, I'll see you then, and have a blessed one.